later, you can do that from here as well. Okay, so that's one partial answer to her question, and she's being so patient while I haven't actually answered her complete question yet. So I'm going to go into Realist just real quickly again, sneak peek for y'all to see. If you don't want to know about Realist yet, you can put your head down for about a minute and a half. But once you have the option, you'll see here, if I click Public Records, I go to Stewart, or I can choose Realist. You'll have the option between the two again for several months until Stewart takes their system down, so you'll be able to easily just stay with one until you're ready to move to the other, or go back and forth between the two. And again, super fast to load because I'm standing in front of a group. And late January, early February, again, is when you will probably have access to this. So let's put in a property address to hypothetically pull up. Oops, I hit enter too many times. So right here, I've got my property, and then right here I have labels. Okay, and then I can pick labels of what? I only put one property in there, but you could put, you know, Oak Ridge subdivision or 77062 or whatever it was you wanted to generate labels for, and then you pick one of the three different formats, just depending on what label you actually have, and then what it is you want to include. It'll always presume you want the tax billing address, the quote-unquote tax address, but you can use the property address. You know, if you're trying to get listings, you need to find the owner wherever he is. So if they're renting it out and they live in Michigan, you want to go with owner address, tax address, not necessarily property address. And then again, you can check the boxes by what you would like to do. Create custom label would mean like our who doesn't love getting mail that's addressed to current resident, right? So we could put in current resident or friendly homeowner ad or future homeowner ad if the target of my marketing was to convert renters to buyers, whatever it might be. So you've got a little flexibility there, and then you can save it and export it, or I can print it right now. Okay, thank you for being patient while I took a long time to get there. I'm a little OCD-ish, and it just wasn't time yet, right? It had to flow, it had to go where it made sense to my mind. And
can you, in this area right here, search via the subdivision?
You can, starting here, search by address only, but if you go over here to this My Search, it gives you way more to choose from. Yes, quite a few different things in there that you can search by. Okay.
Are you in Stewart right now?
I am in Realist. I'm in Realist. So this is kind of a sneak peek. Again, it looks kind of Fusion-esque, I think. It's from the same vendor, like I say. This menu item over here, again, just to real quickly, briefly, just give you an idea of what's there. Market trends, boundaries will show you quite a few different things. Flood zone, remember I told you that it had much more extensive floodplain maps than just only Harris County. So this gives me kind of pretty much the whole country of floodplain data, and as I scoot out, it'll make a little more sense to you.
And that is not yet an option for us.
That is not yet an option in MLS, that's right. So currently we only have access to the FEMA database, which is Harris only. So you can see right there, it's kind of more like a heat map.
I mean Realist.
Realist is not, correct.
Okay.
Yes, you are right in that it's not. We can do a Realist class, and for that block of time that I'm here doing, it's only an hour class, and just FYI, the Client Gateway class is already a 2-hour MCE, so that'll fit with your training schedule. You could throw in that. I'm not trying to work it so I get more pizza, but just say it. No, I mean for the block of time that we're training that, they're able to turn that on for us, so y'all can be hands-on, or I can just do a presentation style for y'all to watch and have a handout to refer to later when it launches in just a couple of weeks. So that's just an option for you. Okay.
Does it give us on the search side? Does it give you like a person's name option?
You can do owner name here.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Property address or owner's name or MLS listing number if you have it. It's pulling from both MLS and tax data. And then one last little tidbit I'll leave you with, a little teaser. See right here where it says change region? Right now we can only access those 6 counties that we service through MLS. Brazoria, Fort Bend, Harris, Montgomery, Waller, Galveston. This lets me look at to begin with the entire state of Texas. So if I need some property information on a property in Bryan College Station, what county is that, Brazos Valley or whatever it is, then I go over there and I go pull the tax record. I still don't have access to MLS, right? But I now have access to the full tax report, the floodplain determination map for it. This program even allows you to run a CMA, and it will go find what it can from that other MLS and the tax and give you some comps in there. So it's a really, really robust system that'll really, really be, I think, a great improvement to the Stewart system, just because there's just so much more in there that'll help you.
In that class, you can show us that.
We can show you those things. And just because, I'll go ahead and just email the link to the handout for the Realist class, just so, again, you can have a chance to look over it and see what all it contains, just so you have it. And then if you choose to come to a class, great. If you don't, you'll have that for when it launches. And then if I come back, you'll have had a heads up on it when you do take the class. If I come back for that particular class. We had not yet determined that I would teach that class, but we knew I was coming back. Again, I'm not trying to swing the vote for pizza, but also her suggestion of Mexican food, I'll go with that too. I'll come back for that. No, I'm just kidding. I just really love my job, and I like to come and teach stuff. And like I say, I was getting more excited than y'all were when I was like, oh, I get to teach you the school zone finder. Oh gosh, that's great. So I love what I do. So there we go. A little sneak peek of Realist to preview that. And again, currently, you still have Stewart title, and you'll have that running side by side for a little bit once the other launches. We already talked about our save, our email, our print, and here's super techie terminology again. Remember on the cheatlet, I had a little red car. The little red car was specific to that property, right? Totally different, slightly angled yellow car, so clearly it has a different functionality, right? Everything in the black and white toolbar is consumer-centric. Everything else is agent-centric. So the little red forward-facing car was directions to the one house. This is going to be plan a route, driving directions, that I might need to take a client with me to go show the properties, okay? So again, just presuming I have hand-selected and painstakingly thought through which ones I want, I'll click the little yellow car, and then I can plan a route to go show those. Obviously, in real life, I would not show the sold houses, right? So at this point, I can click the little X and take those out of the driving directions. They are still marked back here on the grid. I'm not changing anything at all about how I selected them or the order or anything. I'm just taking it out of the mix for now. And these are going to be in whatever order the grid was in. So default was status, order, and then list price, and so forth. They're rarely, except for free coincidence, going to be in, hey, let's drive to them order, right? And obviously, if I decide this will be the first one, CSS can say, no, sorry, you can't go there at that time, right? So whatever you want, whatever you need to do, you can rearrange these. Let's say just geographically, I want to go left to right. I don't want to be Marilyn-esque and go right to left, okay? So I'm going to, whatever is number 2 right now, I actually want to be my first property. So I just literally come over here, click and hold, and drag and drop. And now that's number 1. And this one's number 2, and this one's number 3. If I really wanted, I could flip-flop those, but it's, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And again, I only have 3 properties, so it's not really that, hugely impactful, but if you had 4 or 5, and you were trying to, make it work so that you were making sense out of it, then that helps tremendously. And like I say, you can click the little X to take anything out at any point. So again, if the client says, you know what, I changed my mind about that, or CSS says, no, sorry, no showings today, or whatever, you can instantly take them out of the route. The add, start, and end can either be your office, which it already knows because you are a member of HAR, so it'll know this physical address and plop that in as one of your destinations. Okay. The start, of course, would be the top of the list. The end would be the bottom of the list, but then you could rearrange it if you need a break in the middle and swing by the office or whatever. New location is a manually added location. You have to know the property address or something to put it in by. So let's say you want to meet at the Starbucks down the street. So put in, Starbucks 77380 or wherever we are, and it'll, find you some. Or if you know the physical address, you're going to meet at their office and then go from there to show the properties or whatever it is. You can do that at the beginning or at the end, like I say here. And then down at the bottom, it's pretty standard mapping type stuff. Big map with little turn-by-turn maps, or just a big map, or just text only, and those will make a little more sense on the next screen where we can see them. Avoid tolls, favor tolls, take highways only, or whatever it might be. And you can, if you're feeling European, you can do kilometers instead of miles. It's an option. And then once you click Get Directions, it does. And so it'll say, here's all of them that we plan to go to in the order we plan to go to them in. And so it's ABC now instead of 1, 2, 3. If we scroll down, here's from the first property to the second to the third, third to fourth, so on and so on, depending on how many you had. And you can print it out, or you can email it directly to the client. So if you're meeting at the first house, you can send it to them and say, see you there. Okay. Also, it gives you kind of an estimate of mileage and time. This does not include real life driving on I-45 or anything like that, but or research forest, that's right. Orange barrels are not included, right? Also, it doesn't factor, of course, getting out of the car, opening the house, turning on the lights, disabling the alarm, all that other stuff you do. But to drive from one destination with no impediments whatsoever will take 11 minutes, apparently. 5.32 miles, and then 16 miles, and so forth. At the very top, it gives you a grand total mileage and time estimate. Anybody need to track their mileage for tax purposes? Everybody say yes. So now on that day, I went about 22 miles with that client. So even if I don't do anything else with this, maybe I use it in that regard. I mean, I'm sure you all painstakingly have a journal and you write down everything like I do, but just in case you get caught in a pinch, that's one way you could use that. Okay, so that's driving directions. This little icon right here is for statistics. There aren't really any statistics in MLS. In Infusion, rather, there weren't any until I think it was about 2 or 3 months ago that they launched this little Stats Pro module, and it's a really nice, robust statistical report. You can do the quick CMA, which is very similar to the statistics button in Tempo. It gives you the same kind of simple grid as clicking that button in Tempo would. Or this Stats Pro, again, gives you a nice, robust, printable, full scope kind of all of these different pieces. So on the screen, it's kind of squished my picture, which doesn't make me very happy. It's a girly thing. But you can see this grid. Initially, it's the high, low, average, median. One thing that I really like, if I were to have an opinion, is this. We've got SPLP, and that means sales price to list price ratio, right? They listed it here, and then no matter what else happened in between, it sold there. So that tells me where you started versus where you ended. The last known list price is what that is reflecting. The next column over is OLP, original list price. So I listed it here, and then I finished over there. The other one is telling me, you know, price changes, status changes. This last time they changed the list price was this, and then it sold there. That the second to last column is original, okay? It doesn't vary terribly, but you can see the second, the average sales price to list price is 97, but the original list price to sales price ratio is 95%. So that's different. It's only 2%, but that's a difference, right? If it's 2% of $500 million, it's not a huge necessarily difference, right? That's also sarcasm. That's a lot of numbers, right? That's a lot of price money that didn't end up on my check or my closing cost estimate or whatever. And then again, you've got your different buttons down the side. Market analysis. Again, this is only reflecting the properties I had checked. Please click. Here we go. So it'll give me just price trends and so forth on just the 6 properties that I have. So again, a little bit more overview there. Listings by status gives me kind of a one-liner report. Moving a little slowly today. So active percentage versus sold percentage of what I checked. So again, it's only kind of sort of reflecting that view, just what I selected. And then this last, DOM chart is what I wanted to focus on. Not super exciting since I have some actives and some solds, not really much to show. A handful in between. So this will give me a real detailed breakdown of the days on market, and this factors in cumulative as well. So again, if I'm going to a listing presentation and they're saying, well, my neighbor has his house listed at $90 bajillion, so thank you for all that research you did, but that's all I want. I just want to list my house at $90 bajillion. You can say one of two things. Well, then I'm so sorry I'm not the right agent for you, right? And take your CMA and leave. Or you can say, okay, however, let me just point out that that house also has been sitting there 7,422 days. So if you're willing to wait it out, I guess I'm willing to list it at that price out of that market value or market value estimate. So days on the market can kind of help prove that point. So, and again, up here at the top, you've got a couple of different choices to create it, turn it into a PDF, which they can then attach an email, or you can just print it out. It doesn't have a direct email button, unfortunately, at this time. So that's Stats Pro. Again, we talked about the quick CMA just briefly. It's what I jokingly refer to as the guy report. Short, sweet, to the point. Here are the numbers. That's it. We don't need any of that fluff, right? No pictures, no unicorns, no rainbows, all that. So just, again, a brief grid, kind of one-liner about the properties, and then an overview of what criteria you used to get to that particular set of results. And then the last little button over is the CMA Wizard. Is anybody in here using the Wizard, either in Tempo or Fusion? It's a same, the numbers are the numbers, right? 2 plus 2 is always 4, so math is math. But this takes the exact same data that was in that quick CMA and makes it into a nice, robust presentation type format. There's also a class for that, a 2-hour MCE class, CMA class.
And isn't that where you can make adjustments if you want?
You could if you wanted, that's right. So if you have, and I generally teach that you only adjust for what's written out in black and white in MLS, like the actual closing, the actual pairs made, closing contributions.
Yes.
But then if you wanted, you could assign, you can assign values to. And it covers just the basic, though the CMA can snowball very quickly, its focus is mostly just the fundamentals of CMA, what makes a good comp, what doesn't. And then I do talk about a couple of, CMAs are one of my favorite things to do, so. Yeah. Well, and it's different every single time, so it's intimidating. Like, I mean, yesterday when I did one, it turned out great, and then today there's this weird house and no comps, and it can be a very intimidating process, so. Eventually the wizard loads, and it's lovely. And then you can see on the left there's just 8 steps. 90% of your work's all done because you painstakingly chose your comps, right? You read through them all, you looked at the pictures all already and all of that. So it'll only pull in what you've chosen. And then you can see the tab for adjustments. Like he was saying, if I choose to make any adjustments, I've got the ability to do that per comp that I chose. And then you've got several different printable options in the end. This is the fluffy version, yes ma'am.
Has it ever created liability for an agent using their own personal judgment to make adjustments?
I'm sure. I mean, I don't know any particular specific case of that, but I can't imagine that it hasn't, quite honestly, you know. Somebody can get mad at me just because my hair's too brown or whatever, you know, just whatever, 2 personal opinions can be conflicting opinions, and you don't even realize it.
If somebody purchases a property or agrees on a price based upon a CMA that you created, and then they're unhappy about what they did, could they go back and say, well, you're the one who decided that 4th bedroom?
It could potentially, yes, come back to bite you, for lack of a better term. And that's why I generally, I mean, you can do whatever you want, right? I generally teach the safest way possible. The mom in me wants you to be, you know, happy and all that, things to go well. So where it says closing costs paid, repair allowance paid, those are concrete numbers that the listing agent has put into the listing once it closed. We know those actually happened. So I can use those as math and, you know, ammunition for my adjustment. Is granite good or is granite bad? Okay, there's a house that just sold in MLS that has, I don't even see anything in here that's the right color. I mean, it was the brightest electric blue granite you've ever seen, and it was all over this kitchen. Real select few are gonna only want the blue granite, right? So if I had thought it was amazing and adjusted up for that as a selling point, the buyer might think, no way, or, you know, whatever. So you do have to be really careful and have no opinion at all which is very difficult because as humans, we always want to have an opinion, right? I've done it like 47 times here today, even though I keep saying I shouldn't, right? It's just hard not to. You can refer to an appraiser and say, this house has a pool, but nothing else does. In your experience in that market, can you give me some sort of estimate as to what a pool might add value-wise? But then again, there's a pool and a pool and a pool, right? There's saltwater pools and beautifully landscaped pools and custom sizes, and then there's just the plain old 1980s white concrete plain old pool, right? So the mom in me, like I say, always is trying to take some of that burden off of you. And like I say, you've got a couple of different options when you print it out. Just if I went up to the view report and clicked print, I would have, even though I only have 6 total comps selected, I'm probably looking at 25 to 30 pages because of all the stock pages in that report. That's too much. That's way too much. They have 4 different ways that they compare the properties to the subject, so you definitely need to look at it and weed through it and pull out what you don't want or what just doesn't work for this particular client or whatever. On the far right, the little trash can, super techie stuff here, trash it for this one CMA. It's not relevant, or I don't want to, use that report. And then it just instantly refactors the math, reconfigures the report, and you don't have to start the whole process over or anything like that. It just takes it out of there. Also, they have something like the little pencil here lets you edit the marketing plan, for instance. You may not be willing to actually do all that stuff. So again, don't print it out, don't present it to them if you haven't read it first. First and foremost, starting with that line right there, how many people are you pre-qualifying? Right? You're not. You're going to bring a pre-qualified buyer, potentially, but you aren't pre-qualifying anyone. So, again, just a little tweak in the verbiage there. We'd want to take that line out. And then again, if you're not going to put it in the paper, make sure you're not talking about marketing it in the paper or, whatever. Just simple stuff like that. And again, if you don't want to do any of that just yet, just hit the trash can, take it out. It's no longer part of the CMA. Okay? So that's your kind of Cliff Notes version of the wizard and the difference between the two. Again, math is math. The suggested list price and the average comp information, all that is exactly the same in the quick CMA as it is in the wizard. Just one also includes pictures and some color charts and things like that to make it a little bit more full of information looking, but either one can certainly work fine for you. So the last couple of little tidbits here, unless y'all have any questions on any of this searching and finding that we talked about. Okay, so I'm going to go back real quickly to criteria, and we're going to be advanced again. I know we're all really, really tired because our bellies are full of our pizza, so it's an awful lot, right? But if we go back to criteria, I think search by map is hugely important. It's technically part of the advanced class, but I try to teach this on every level. Brand new licensees all the way up to people who have been doing this a million years, I think can benefit from the map. So if you go back to criteria, you'll see the map button right there. And this is going to sound silly, and this isn't just because this is the one time I'm not being sarcastic, so it's a little difficult to pick out, okay? If you're in criteria, you can use the map as criteria. If you're in results, you're only using the map to see the results. That makes perfect sense right now, doesn't it? Okay? The map looks 99.9% the same, so when you draw on the map and then you look at the results and you think, oh, I want to tweak that a little bit. You go to try to draw on the map and you think, oh no, the drawing tool's gone. I broke it. Where is it? Because that one little tiny piece is the only thing different. And I'll show you what I mean. So right here, map, in the criteria, includes this little bitty teeny tiny pencil, their drawing toolkit. So that's where I can actually pick up the drawing apparatus, draw on the map and say, look in there. If I go to results and look at my map, looks exactly the same almost, except these are numbered, of course, and then there's no pencil. So a lot of people get really tripped up on that, thinking, oh, I did something wrong, I don't know how to fix it, what do I do, what do I do? Always be sure you're in criteria to set up your criteria. And like I say, that sounds so simple, but because they're so similar, it really is very easy to get confused by that. So back in criteria, everything on the left still applies. All the text fields I filled in, my price range, my year built, my stories, my pool, all of that stuff is still in effect. But then I can add a mapping piece if I want. And it doesn't matter if you do the map first or the text fields first or vice versa. Both will always work together. no matter what order you put them in. In. All right, so if I go to the pencil, I've got 3 different tools: the radius, the rectangle, the polygon. I think the polygon's the one you'll use the most, so I'm going to save it to last. I think the rectangle you'll use the least, so we'll start there. If you click the rectangle to pick up the tool or select it, then come to your map, click and let go. Envision which of the 4 corners of your rectangle or square you want to start with. Click and let go, and it makes that point. And then you just move your mouse in any direction to make it into a square. So click and let go, move the mouse, click again to tell it I'm done. So now I've told it, find anything in the box that I just drew that also goes along with the stuff on the left-hand side of the screen. That's in that same price range, that's in one of the statuses I specified, that has a pool, that's only 2-story. Okay, so now I can take out area 15 and have it look in the box, and I have a lot more, because 15 stopped about halfway down my box. So that pretty much the bottom half of my box didn't have results because I had limited it to area 15. Does that make sense? Okay.
When you click on the box, because that's the area you wanted, then you went to where? Then you went back to location.
When you click once to begin drawing, and then you click again to tell it you're done drawing. And that's all you have to do.
And that's it?
To draw the box. And then I did come over here and just show you that example of changing the area, but you don't have to. Okay, so right now I've told it must be inside the box, it must also be in area 15, it must also be within the certain price range, it must also have a pool, it must also be 2-story, so everything's all working together. But if I only want whatever's in the box, let's say the client has said, I want to live inside the loop. That's multiple MS areas, multiple zip codes, multiple subdivision names. There isn't any way that I can put stuff over here on the left that would make that work out, right? So that's where my polygon would come in handy. Polygon lets me do up to 30 points. Tempo's polygon is up to 8, by the way, just so you're aware. But I can literally trace the inside of the loop and not go north of I-10 or east of 288 or whatever it is that they want, and just say, just right in there. I don't know what it's called, I don't know what numbers, there's too many. So just geographically, only use what I put on the map. Okay, so that's the point I was trying to make. It can be with an MLS area or not. Also, the other point is be sure that one's not canceling the other. Because if I look in area 24, which is Memorial, and I do a box up here near Conroe, clearly one's canceling the other one out. I'm never going to get results that's both in Memorial and up here, right? So just kind of be mindful of that when you do that. All right, so the polygon again, just to show you that how it works. There we go. It's allows you some more flexibility to change direction and make it a regular size shape. You can have more than one shape on the map at a time, which you cannot do in Tempo, just to point out the difference. If I pick up the polygon tool again, I can click and follow certain streets if that's what I want to do. They want to live between 249 and I-45, hypothetically, and not any higher northwest-ish than 2920. So now I'm telling it just look in that kind of odd shape. You can, again, keep clicking until you hit the 30th point and then it'll automatically stop, or you can double-click to let it know you're done. So now it'll look for properties in both geographic shapes, but again, I have 15 over here. So if I want just geography, I can take the area out, and now it's looking in the polygon and the square. You can also click the little red and white X right there to get rid of that. I'm very excited. This is new. By the way, they just added this feature, which was not there, Friday. You can edit the shape or delete the shape now, so that's cool. If you click to edit, you'll have your points that you can, bless you, click and move. Pros and cons, it's no longer a rectangle, it's now a polygon, right? I can't make the rectangle hold its shape and make it bigger, but I can move the points and make it involve something else. Or I can delete the shape and just go make a new rectangle. That's the right shape. Does that make sense? If that's what I wanted to do. And again, you can have an unlimited number of shapes all over your map if you'd like to do that. And then your last shape is your radius tool. Excuse me. Thank you. It's all stuffy and sneezy in here. The polygon lets you presume there's some center point that's of interest. They're going to work here and they want to live within 5 miles of that. Or they want to be really close to the intersection of I-45 and the Beltway because that's the easiest to get to work. Or 10 miles away from their mother-in-law or whatever. Excuse me. So you can do a couple of different things here with your radius tool if it's something fairly easily geographically located like the intersection of 249 and 1960. You know, you could just draw a circle around that. Or if there's something specific, a specific address or business name, like I say, you can use this second tool here, this blue map pin. That's actually a locator tool. So if you click that, you can then say they want to be near 1234 Maple Street, or they want to be near XYZ company, Shell Oil, whatever, and mark that on the map. And again, just for the interest of having something here, I'll put this address on the map. City and state would be helpful because it is Bing mapping, so apparently it's good to specify. So that now gave me a very different looking map pin. So the big white blob is my focal point, and then my red and green and orange pins are my MLS results. Okay, so then again I can double click, get in a little bit closer if I wanted, go pick up my radius tool, get as close as possible but not on top of that little marker that I just made. Click and let go, move my mouse in any direction, and you can see the radius mileage coming up off of that. So if they say they wanted to be 5 miles away from that, whatever it is to them, you know it's going to take me a second, right, to OCD on that. I'm going to try my best. Okay, I'm going to let it go at 4.999999999 miles. So then if I click again to let it know I'm done drawing, now this is a 5 mile radius in every direction around whatever significant center point that was to them. One of the other things that you can do, pros and cons, right? I'm now 5 miles away from that, but property east of 45 can be very different than property west of 45, right? Some are older subdivisions, some are newer developments. So you can actually then, what I call Marilyn it up, take the polygon tool, trace, maybe you just want to stay on the east side of 45. So I take my polygon tool, trace just that half of the circle, go down 45 with the polygon, and then delete all the other shapes. And I have that nice little pie wedge that's just only 5 miles, but only on the east side of 45. So you can really get super detailed with that mapping stuff if you wanted to do that. And then our other menu items here, this overlay menu. Again, when you need it, it's really helpful, but you might not need it all the time. If you click MLS area map, this will highlight and color code the map to show you where all the different MLS numbers are. There is no rhyme or reason to that MLS area map. 1 and 2, I think, happen to be adjacent to each other, but besides that, they're all over the place. So here's 1, 2, 4, 7, 12, 16, 40, 52. So that tells you where 1 starts and stops. So you kind of get a better idea, is that in 15 or is that in 19 or whatever that you need to know from that map. And it does go as far north as it can and, west, south, and east as it possibly can. You just won't really ever know all those, I don't think, even no matter how long you do real estate. There's a lot of them and you don't always work in those areas. Market areas is the more kind of quote-unquote regular names of parts of town. Consumers can search har.com by this market area if they choose to do that. It's going to be called like medical center, West Chase District, stuff like that, where it's not a real city name or it's not related at all to the MLS area number, but it gives them that sort of more.
As you zoom in, it gives you the name.
Correct. I don't think anyone would call you up and say, I want to live in 1960/Cypress, but they want to live in the 1960 area, right? So unless they've gone to HAR and they realize that's designated as that, they probably won't refer to it as exactly that, but it gives you a general idea, again, if they haven't done that, where the heck that is. And they're all pretty logical. Northeast Houston, for instance, makes perfect sense, except all that's in Northeast Houston too. So knowing where they kind of start and stop can be of help. Down toward the bottom, we have zip codes, boundaries. If you're zoomed in quite far, we've got this parcel map, and it takes a little longer than the other layers to load, but this is plat map is another way to refer to that. So we'll get in pretty zoomed in. Eventually you'll start to see these little gray lines appear. There they are. It's a little like watching paint dry, I realize, but basically it'll show you the shape of the lot. So it'll let you know this guy lives at the end of the cul-de-sac and he's got a nice big wedge-shaped lot. This guy lives on the corner, is a bigger lot than the guy next to him. These are all pretty standard cookie cutter rectangular sized lots. Good to be that guy, right? And if you get really, 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 really far in, then it'll show you the property address. So I'll know this is 9027 Meadow Vista Boulevard or whatever it is. I can then now go manually to the tax, type that property address in there, look up more information about it. Eventually, we hope to have a little star right there. Harris County currently is working in this way. There's a little star, you click the star and it opens the tax record. So you don't have to do double duty by manually typing. So we hope to have automatic links to that once we have that data available. Realist should help us toward that end. And then the only other thing that is of interest potentially, sorry, my mouse either doesn't go at all or it zooms out to the whole United States. The school district layer is good to know. This tells you where Spring ISD starts and stops, Tomball ISD starts and stops. So that's the boundary of the district. Currently we have a school link, but it's not nearly as exciting as you think it is. Right now, it's just saying, yep, there is a school right there. And if I get really far in, it'll tell me the name of the school. I don't know anything at all about the zoning to that school, though, at this time. Also, around about the same time Realist launches is something that HAR is writing and putting together, which will be an enhanced